All right, welcome to Downstairs Den&D, where we play D&D in the den downstairs. Here you will find a mixed experience group playing through Waterdeep Dragon Heist with a DM whose ideas are bigger than his time allows. My name's Billy, and I'll be that dungeon master today. Joining me are our 5 players. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, and the players you'll be player charactering. That was weird.
We need like a determined order for this. I
Me.
think everyone's like, yeah, Meech is next to Billy on my screen.
Hey, that's fair.
I think it's the same.
Hey, I'm Meech, and my character's name is Tennyson Ward.
I'm Chris. I'm playing a moon elf druid named Elisar.
I'm Veronica. I'm playing a chiefly bard named Demea.
I am Edison. I am playing a tiefling sorcerer named Baracus.
My name is Shane. My character is a human monk, and his name is Ciendithus.
Is that everybody? Cool. So, last session, we met our fledgling adventurers as they met some friendly faces around the Yawning Portal, a very prominent tavern in the southern end of the castle ward of Waterdeep. There they were invited by their companions, acquaintances, whatnot, for a job. They knew of a contact that was looking for a group of lesser-known, unfamiliar faces to carry out a task. Unbeknownst to the adventurers, that this patron was none other than Volotharn Gadarn, the famous author of Faerun. After some hijinks ensued around the tavern, they did eventually meet Volo, and he told him that his fair-haired friend Floon Blagmar went missing after a night of drinking at the Skewered Dragon in the Dock Ward a few nights ago. And that is where we are going to pick up today. So, Volo has went ahead and paid each of you up front 10 gold pieces with promises of an additional 100 gold pieces to locate his missing friend. He's given you some preliminary information, and we are setting up the scene in the Yawning Portal. Volo has just left and told you he will be back later this evening, and hopefully you guys will meet him with some additional information.
Well, those sturges were a heck of a thing. Everyone make it out all right?
A-okay.
Yeah, so far
Yeah,
so good.
barely. My neck hurts still a little bit. That's fine. I'll live.
Well,
I'm a little surprised that. I wonder how regular an occurrence this is. Just that pit's got to be full of different kinds of monsters that come up here periodically.
Not as often as you think.
You guys want to take a couple minutes, collect yourselves before we take off?
Definitely.
I don't think we ever got our drinks yet.
Yeah, I never got my whiskey and all the commotion.
Speak for yourself.
Funny, would rather forget me.
All right, I'll
Are any of you doing anything? Are you guys going to flag anybody down?
No, I'm good. Kind of unexpected. I don't really need the drink right now.
Did anybody win that bet?
No, I lost a shard. Foolishly thought he would get back up there.
Did anyone bet on him dying?
I didn't.
No. I bet on the coward that come up without his cup. I could have.
So after a few minutes, Bonnie does come over to you. Again, middle-aged, smooth-faced woman. And apologizes for, the ruckus. Thanks you. She says that Darnan, for your help with the troll and the Sturges, has offered to get around on the tavern, and she does bring you all out a round of drinks for you to consume while you take what sounds like a short rest before you head off toward the dock warden.
I look over at
Look over
the.
at Tennyson.
Oh,
Go ahead.
is looking over at the pink-skinned tiefling. I think we've met before. Were you on a ship? Was it the Kelpie's Kiss? I believe.
I was, yes. You look slightly familiar too. I mean, I see a lot of faces, but what's your name again? Sorry, I kind of forgetting all the commotion.
It's Tennyson.
That's right. And you were like escorting someone, right?
Yeah, my employer at the time, he was heading up towards Luskin and Miramar.
That's right, yeah. Well, it's good to see you again.
Yeah, you definitely seem to know what you're doing around the ship, so... What's
Yeah, I was on there for a long time.
What is it you do? What's your skill set for this?
Well, I was the navigation master for the last few years there, but I just, I've been doing that for a long time, and it's kind of want to try something new for a while, so I figured I'd give adventuring a try.
Okay.
I
think it was,
kind of take a.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Take like they kind of like really carefully like sniff the beer and then taste a little bit before I start drinking it. And then after a while, hearing this conversation, I turn to Maya and say you seem to know a lot of people around here, and I recognize at least two of you. That seems like an odd coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, get around as much as I did around Waterdeep for when I'm in town. Meet a lot of people. You look familiar too.
So I think we met on a boat, and you do some of the shipments for our greenhouse.
Ah, yeah, that's right.
The moment he says greenhouse, I kind of stare at him, like squinted up. I say, I thought I recognized you.
Yeah, you're that blacksmith next door.
Yeah. Something like that. How's the folks? How's the family?
Well, I mean, I don't really. So the owner of our greenhouse isn't really related to me in any way. I just kind of work there.
Must be nice to not work with your family. Sounds nice.
It has its benefits.
Better than a father screaming at you all day, saying you'll never be as good as him. But,
I wonder
where's
if
my
that's-
beer?
You do have a drink. Bonnie has brought out a free round for you all.
I know. I want another one.
You ready for another? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is that how you ask for it?
Yes. I'm
Okay.
starting to feel the effects.
Got it.
He's a little buzzed.
Okay. After a few moments, Bonnie comes and sets down another tankard in front of you and kind of gives you a bit of a offended look. Offended's not quite the word I'm looking for, but...
Thanks, Bonnie.
Oh, you're welcome, dear. Can I get you anything?
Not at the moment, but here in a minute I'll come over and talk to you by the bar.
Oh, okay. She goes off to serve another table. Three Shrinks is up on the stage, plucking away. What was that?
I was gonna say I wink at Tennyson, and then I say, "I see what you."
It's not like that, Fred.
I don't.
Shane, I'm only hearing like half of what you're saying.
How's that?
Much better.
That's better. Quit fidgeting with your mic. I do that all the time at work. I'll accidentally flip my mic up, and then get onto a conference call or something, and people are just like, "We can barely hear you." I'm like, "Oh no!"
I just don't want to be the really loud person, so I try and be as soft and quiet as I can.
Don't like to be the center of attention.
Oh no, I love that. I just don't like to be loud.
Oh, that is very unlike your aunts and uncles, because we are all very loud people.
Mhm.
We get that from our mother.
True.
So, excuse me. We'll all sit, chit-chat, as you do. For about an hour, short rest passes by. Let's take care of that real quick. Who all was... did anybody roll their hit die if they were spending their hit die? Does anyone need a reminder of how that mechanic works? Everybody good? All right. So, once we are headed off...
Before we leave, I'm going to try and catch Bonnie away from everybody else.
Oh, right. I apologize. Yeah, so kind of as toward the end of that time, you see Bonnie standing up at the bar waiting for Darnan to finish up making a round of drinks for her, and you take that opportunity to go up and approach.
Quick favor. Do you mind if I store some stuff
dear.
here at the inn? Just in a closet or something?
I'm sure I could find a place in the back bar for you.
Okay. I take off majority of my traveling gear, as well as my short sword and crossbow, and pass it over to her.
She takes it, and she lets you know that if she is not working when you come back, she will take it home with her.
Any inns in the area that you would suggest, that you would recommend?
Oh, are you? Oh, I could get Darnan just to set you up with a room here for a little bit if you don't want to stay with us anymore.
I don't know how
You're more than welcome to say keep. I mean, we cannot repay you enough for what you did for us.
I understand. I don't know how this job will go, and depending on what I find out, I might not want to get you or your parents or
you are
your
just the
involved.
Sweetest thing. I will have Darnan. I will get you a room here at the portal, and I'll let Darnan know. He'll have a key waiting on you when you get back, and your stuff will be in there for you.
All right. And if I walk in here, don't approach me or anything unless I tap the side of my nose. All right.
Oh, okay, dear.
All right.
She turns back, and Darnan plops several tankards down in front of her to scuttle off to serve a table.
I come back to the group, no longer carrying any visible weapons.
What?
What?
I'm
Did you
just
drop your stuff off?
yeah, I'm just looking at him confused why he doesn't have his gear anymore.
I mean, you don't see a whole lot of armed groups walking around the city, do you? Trying to not draw as much attention as possible.
Fair.
Smart.
So anyone who has spent a bit of time in Waterdeep would know it's not terribly common. It's not terribly uncommon to see someone walking around armed, at least to the teeth. You know that most noble houses are going to have a small retinue of soldiers. You're going to know that you kind of would be... You'd be more admonished for branding rather than just carrying weapons. it's not uncommon. Again, it's one of the largest cities in the world to see groups of adventurers moving about. But it's not like it's populated by adventurers, if that makes sense. Cool.
There's a difference between a armed man walking around asking questions and an unarmed man walking around asking questions.
That's astute. And you came fully decked. It sounded like you.
Oh yeah, I had like a backpack with like a bedroll. I didn't know what we were doing today, so I was full Boy Scouted out.
Gotcha.
My guy's a little drunk, so he looks at Tennyson. He flexes a little bit, and then he says, "I'm always armed."
Okay.
I roll my eyes at the machismo.
All right, so it sounds like we are ready to set off.
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
Okay, so you all are heading from the Yawning Portal, as I said a few moments ago, to the Skewered Dragon. The Yawning Portal is in the very southern edge of the Castle Ward, and you know that the Skewered Dragon is down in the Dock Ward. So you will begin making your way. It is a stark contrast as you move further south. The houses in the Castle Ward tend to be fairly upkept. The Dock Ward, not so much. As you're moving along, you do eventually turn a corner and find yourselves on a street that has been cordoned off by the City Watch. Lying on the cobblestones are half a dozen corpses, seemingly the victims of some terrible skirmish. Watch officers have disarmed and arrested 3 blood-drenched humans and are in the midst of questioning witnesses. One of the officers of the City Watch, decked out in their yellow and purple gear with their baton, kind of waves their baton at you, just says, "Get on, nothing to see here."
Are any of the bodies on the ground bearing the same marking on the back of their neck or the eye tattoos that we saw previously?
Anyone who would like to can give me a perception check.
21.
Nice. I'm probably just. I was told to move along. I'm moving along.
Okay. So Tennyson, you do notice that the City Watch, or the 3 folks that are sitting on the curb, kind of appearing to be detained and bloodstained. 2 of them do appear to have black snake tattoos on their arm and 1 on their neck.
And those were
You do
associated
notice
with
also.
But sorry.
You do so that tattoo, from what you know, is associated with the Zentarum,
Okay.
and you do notice that several of the dead figures on the laying in the street are wearing head to toe purple. Different shades. Some of their items look dyed. Some of them look a little bit more natural. None of it really matches, but some of it is dark enough that it just looks black, but you can tell several of the bodies are wearing a deep purple tone.
I take stock of the amount of purple brocade that I have on my canvas, and does it match?
No. Again, what they're doing seems to be very like everything was dyed after the fact. Maybe a few pieces of clothing look like they were like intended to be sold as that shade, but it's like ink splashed over leather strips and whatnot. Very, very poorly made or poorly dyed.
Mm-hmm.
Not as vibrant and clear as yours.
Just making sure I'm not on the wrong end of some color banging.
Yep, I hear ya. And so, as all of you, anybody else doing anything this scene?
I'm just investigating all around without like crossing any barriers.
Okay. So taking a look around, you rolled a perception 12.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, you see a couple City Watch folks kind of questioning what appears to be some witnesses. They don't look like they were involved in the skirmish, but they do kind of have a shocked and frightened look on their face, a few of them. You do recognize the gentleman who seems to be in charge of what's happening here. You recognize him as one of the City Watch captains of the dock ward. You know him as Officer Staggett, Captain Staggett. He's kind of an uptight guy. Pretty much every shopkeeper, innkeeper, and tavern keeper in the dock ward knows him. Most respect him regardless of their opinion of the City Watch in general. He does seem genuinely kind of like he wants to do what's best for everybody. His job's to curb violence, and he understands that sometimes that means letting the non-violent criminals do what they gotta do. So you, Baracus, would know all of that and recognize this man.
Do I have a good rapport with him, or?
That's a good question. Do you do much business in the dock ward?
I would say yeah.
You would say yeah. Would you describe your business as violent?
No.
He probably knows. You probably know who each other are. You may not have had direct interactions before.
Can I? I don't know.
He currently seems kind of near. As I said, as you guys kind of turn, you see the block is like blocked off. He is standing up near the three folks that have seemingly been detained. You can't get near him without getting past other City Watch people first. He doesn't appear immediately approachable, but you do see him. Other than that, you don't notice anything that Tennyson didn't. Anybody else want to do anything in this scene?
I look over towards Baracus. See someone you know?
Yeah, I recognize the captain. It's a captain, right?
Yes.
I don't know that we want to bug him if he's busy, but
Have some run-ins in the past?
not necessarily. But I know that he's probably busy, and I don't know if we should bug him.
So from the yawning portal, I imagine you all probably went over to Sale Street to take a major thoroughfare south. You would have noticed this as kind of right off of that main thoroughfare along some intersection off to the east. You would have noticed this was blocked off. So after taking a few minutes to kind of look, take stock of what's going on, you all move along. As you are moving away, you do hear, as you turn to leave, you suddenly hear a loud shout from behind you, "Get him!" You see three of the City Watch guards frantically scrambling to catch one of the detained bandits who seems to have gotten away, sprung to his feet, and is swiftly making his way out of the cordoned off street and right past you. Would anyone like to take an action to do anything?
Can I try and trip him?
I'll
Absolute.
assist him in that.
Okay. So anyone who would like to can make an acrobatics or athletics check. It sounds like Endothos would like to take one of those. With Tennyson's help, To give Ciendithus advantage, Tennyson, what are you doing to help?
If he's going to like put his foot out or something like that, I'm just trying to like throw a shoulder to kind of force him into the foot.
18 plus 5.
Perfect. So, 23. Go ahead and roll a second time, because since Tennyson is helping, he is giving you advantage. I doubt you're going to need better than 23, but just in case. And I will roll for my guy here. And you do stick your foot out and manage to catch this guy right in the ankle. He goes tumbling forward, foot into the cobblestone street. The 3 City Watch members that were chasing pin him to the ground and kind of hold his arms behind him as they pull him up. The man looks right into your eyes. You can see the flying snake tattoo curling up from underneath his leather tunic, up and kind of back toward behind his ear. He takes good stock of you and just says, "We'll remember that," as he's hauled away off by the City Watch. At that point, Captain Sistis Daggett does approach all of you and says, "Well, thank you for the assistance, folks. He would have gotten away without your intervention. I don't recognize most of you." He kind of takes a look. I know Tennyson said he unarmed himself. Is everyone else carrying their weapons?
No.
I mean, it's still like holstered, I guess. I've been kind of further back from everyone else because they said to move along. I moved. I kept walking. I've been waiting for them to show up.
Gotcha.
I just kind of approach him directly, stick my hand out.
He kind of takes a defensive stance. Being a member of the City Watch, he's accustomed to kind of having to be on edge a bit, but seems to relax when he sees that you appear regimented but genuine, and he extends out a hand. Captain Sister Staggett. Like I said, I don't recognize most of you, and you appear to be armed. Can I see your papers, please?
I hand him my permission slip.
So Ciendithus and Baracus would have resident papers. Elisar, have you procured resident papers in your time in Waterdeep?
I would think so.
I would think so. Tamea, Tennyson, is that something you would have taken care of yet?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Either.
You would not have either. Okay. So 3 of you are able to show him your... and then 2 of you... so he says, and what about the 2? Looking at the blue-skinned and red-skinned people in front of him.
Only came to town about a week ago. Haven't gotten any kind of identification yet.
And you?
Yeah, I don't live here necessarily. I just visit from time to time, so I don't have any papers.
Well, if you're going to be here for any period of time, you need to get registered with a local magistrate. Where are you staying?
It's a good question.
I have a room at the yachting portal.
Okay. You both tell him where you're staying. He pulls out a small little notebook from a pouch, tells you who the local magistrate is for that area, and tells you that you're going to need to go get paperwork. Since you appear to be traveling with properly registered folks, he's going to let it slide. He obviously has bigger fish to fry with at the moment, but does mention that you will want to get that taken care of at some point. Before he bids you adieu, he does also mention, hey, again, thank you for your assistance. You may want to be careful getting on the wrong side of these events, though. This gang wars just seems to be getting worse by the day, and I would highly recommend, if you're going to carry weapons around, make sure that they stay carried, if you know what I mean.
Hey, understood. You guys have a tough job. I get it.
And with that, he turns and heads back kind of behind the blockade to continue what he's doing.
So, papers, huh? I look at the three
Yeah.
people from Waterdeep.
Yeah, I got mine when I moved here. It's not too bad of a process. Shouldn't be too bad for you.
So, what we're doing is adventuring work, I guess. We don't have to get charters, do we?
I don't think so.
Ciendithis, you would know this. I'm not sure if Baracus and LSR were. LSR, you might have looked into this just out of curiosity for the culture. But basically, really, there are no charters necessarily for adventuring here in the city. The closest thing to that is for an adventurer to be admitted into Force Grey, which is an adventuring group under the command of the Black Staff that kind of acts as another layer of the security of the city and called upon when needed. But they basically carry out special missions for the Black Staff or come to the defense of the city when needed, but for the most part, more or less act autonomously. That's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, in terms of actually registering as like a party or a group, you will not need to do that. But you do, any person staying in Waterdeep for more than a 10-day does need to get registered either as a permanent or a temporary resident while staying in town by the magistrate at the City Watch post assigned to wherever in town they're staying.
I explain all that to him.
Hey, fair enough. I've been a handful of different places recently. It's hard to keep up with all the rules.
Yeah, and this place has a lot of them, so you'll learn.
All right, so as you guys continue making your way toward the area of the Skewer Dragon, what is the game plan? Again, Volo told you that he and Floon were hanging out at the Skewer Dragon. Volo left a little early. Doesn't know if he stayed there. Doesn't know if he went elsewhere in the city or in town, or in the ward. What is the plan? You all have made it down in the dock ward.
So once we find the Skewer Dragon, we ask like the bartender if they saw or remember Floon leaving.
Before we head
If they
in,
stayed there.
I want to kind of grab everyone and go. So there's a bit of a gang war going on. Is that? Do you three know about that?
I've seen some things like that, smaller things that I encountered earlier in the yawning portal, but I've just kind of stayed away from it. Hasn't bothered me too much. Hasn't affected our business.
Elisar and Ciendithis, that's about accurate. You know that the violence between the two factions has been kind of growing a bit lately, and kind of spilling out. You know, usually the criminal underground tends to stay underground in the city of Waterdeep. There are extensive sewers and whatnot around, and the City Watch teams, as long as it stays underground, they're fine with that. However, it has been spilling out literally blood on the streets in the past 10 days. It has gotten very bad. Baracus, you would know all of that, as well as know the distinction between the two groups of Zentarum that are currently acting in town. There are the Doom Raiders Zentarum, which is a former group of adventurers called the Doom Raiders that are trying to establish themselves in Waterdeep, but they seem to be mostly trying to partake in more or less legitimate enterprises. and trying to stay above board enough to not draw the ire of the City Garden Watch. However, there is a splinter group of Zentarum. Unfortunately, when you're a group known as the Black Society, you tend to have some renegades. There is another splinter group that seems to be much more willing to get violent and overtake the city rather than just operate. There are rumors about who is leading them. A lot of it is just being dismissed as hearsay and nonsense. But you know that it is that splinter faction of Zentarum that seems to be in an open gang war with the Xanathar Guild, which is the established criminal organization in Waterdeep.
Does the splinter organization have a name?
They are another group of Zentarum. The Zentarum tend to be very loosely affiliated between their cells, and it just appears that two opposing and competing splinter cells of Zentarum have taken up residence in Waterdeep. You are not directly affiliated with either, but you are kind of affiliated enough to have heard a bit more about what's actually going on. And that is, again, that the distinction between those two groups of Zentarum. You know that that is the splinter group that's in the war with Xanathar, and you know that it started over a Zentarum raid on the Xanathar's lair several 10 days ago. What exactly was involved or what happened, you don't know, but you do know that. And so we are moving, as you all get into the dock ward, a bit further. Tall, densely packed tenements leave most of the neighborhood in shadow at ground level. Most of the street lamps have had their glass smashed and their candles stolen, and the smell of salt air and excrement linger as you pass rows of run-down buildings. Excuse me. It's probably getting to about late afternoon, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. Seems like it is, again, the second of chess. So we are in the claws of winter. So the sun actually is starting to make its way below the horizon. As you all are wandering the dock ward at dusk.
Wait, is it chess now? I thought it was Alturiak.
No, you're right, Alturiak. Yeah, you're right. Second, yeah, Alturiak. Chess is March. Yeah. So you all are making your way through. One thing that as you're one odd curiosity that you do notice as you walk through, at the corner of Zastro and Fillet Lane, one nearby shop stands out from the others. It has a deep purple facade, and in its window hangs a stuffed beholder. Above the door hangs a sign whose elaborate letters spell out Old Zoblob Shop. And let's see if I can do this in a way I can actually show this to you. Can you see that, Meech? Zoom out of your map, Meech.
Oh.
Everybody scroll up to the top.
Yeah, I zoomed all the way out and I can see it.
Yep.
So you see this guy at the corner. As you guys are making your way toward the skewered dragon.
So we see a mini eyeballed creature inside of the window of this.
Yeah, it's inside the window. Kind of as this picture displays. Yeah.
Is it moving?
No, it's very clearly stuffed.
Oh, okay.
You all continue on, and eventually get to the skewered dragon. It looks like a ruin. Both of its front-facing windows are smashed, and a ship's anchor is lodged in the roof. Through the windows, you can see a group of haggard patrons drinking from huge tankards.
Do I recognize anyone, Billy?
Are you guys heading inside? Right now, you're still kind of outside on the street. You've just approached this and found the building itself.
Well, this looks like a wonderful place. I wonder why. I'm starting to get a little suspicious why Volo and Falloon were even here.
I do want to walk around the building to make sure there's no one lurking.
Okay. You take a look around. Give me a perception check. And you are... Do you have dark vision?
120.
Okay. I will say that as we dusk, any scene that takes place out of doors is low light. So if you do not have dark vision, you will have disadvantage on any perception or sight-based checks.
Do they have lanterns, like street lanterns or anything?
In a lot of Waterdeep, there are street lamps with candles. There is actually a candle lighters guild. That is a very prominent profession within the city. However, if you had paid attention to me a few moments ago when I was reading the box text for the dock ward,
My bad.
you would have heard me say most of the street lamps have had their glass smashed and their candles stolen.
What jerks? Why would people steal candles?
Baracus, you know that the dock ward actually has one candle. There is only one that actually manages to consistently remain unmolested somehow for some reason. And coincidentally, it is on Candle Lane. But that is not where you are, so it is getting dark.
Where are we? What street?
You are at the corner of... Give me just a moment. The Skewered Dragon is down near where Fillet and Snail Street meet. So it is...
If you shift ping on it, Billy, you'll bring us straight to it.
That's what I'm working on. I just need to zoom in enough to find it. Oh. Oh, because I'm in the map and background layer. Still getting used to Roll20. It is... here.
Aha. So, looking around, I don't see anyone being crazy, being sneaky, other than myself.
No, not particularly.
As soon as it started to get too dark for comfort for us non-dark vision people, I would have lit a lantern.
That is where the skewer dragon is.
Gotcha.
I look at everyone and I say, "What are we waiting for? Let's go inside."
I agree.
Looks pretty clear to me, so sure.
There are lights on inside, right?
Yeah, you see several patrons inside. It is occupied and it is open. You all head inside. And again, it is filled with several folks. Being here in the dock ward, that is a fantastic question that you asked a few minutes ago to Maya. With what you do, what you know. When you were in port, did you spend time at the taverns here in the dock ward?
I would have, yeah.
Okay. Do you think this is one that you would have hung out in?
Probably.
Probably. Okay. So you've probably been in here before. You take a look around, and you do recognize one person. You recognize a broad-shouldered dwarf with a smoothly oiled black beard and a multitude of different silver rings on his stubby fingers. He is known as Solomil Silverfingers. And he is known, you know him as a tavern regular. You would have had a few interactions. It's not like you're close friends. But you do know that he has a penchant for contests. Either gambling or fighting and whatnot.
Okay.
As you walk in, he actually approaches you. Actually, no, he doesn't. I take that back. He's sitting over at a table with a couple, playing a game of Sava, which is kind of a odd version of chess invented by the Drow.
Okay. Well, I see someone I recognize, but if we want to go talk to the bartender first, I'm okay with that. Ask him some questions.
So it's someone you have a good relationship with who might be able to help us, or should we ask the bartender first?
I don't know what he's gonna know. We know each other. We're not like friends, but I say let's talk to the bartender first, and maybe I'll ask him afterwards.
Okay. Anybody in particular approaching the bartender? Who's doing the questioning here?
I'll follow along, but just to observe.
Probably still looking at like the people sitting down around the place, still getting a scope on them.
Gotcha.
Since I've been here before, I guess I would probably just be more comfortable and walk in straight towards the bar.
Got it. Elisar, I'm sorry, what did you just say?
Oh, I said I was kind of like scanning the people. I'm like, I don't think I know anyone here. I'm just kind of like looking at them.
Looking around, I can't imagine you've spent a whole lot of time at the
Probably not.
senior places in this part of town. But I heard Demea's going up to the bartender. Baracus, do you think you've been here before?
I don't know. Since it depends on like how much alcohol costs, because I don't have a lot of money.
Okay, so you probably don't go out very often. That's fair. That's you. Yeah, you probably haven't been. You've definitely probably heard of the place, but never been a patron.
Right.
And then so Demea, you approach the bartender. What's everybody else doing? Are you guys still just standing around the door? Or are you guys splitting up? Or are you guys going to go just find a table, all sit down? As Demea approaches the bar, are y'all just going to go sit on the bar?
I'll go over to the bar.
I would find tables, sit down,
Yeah, I'll go with you.
kind of far away from everyone else.
Alright, so Ciendithis and Demea are going up to the bar. Elisar and Baracus are going to sit down. Tennyson, what are you doing?
I'm following along to the bar.
To the bar. Okay. Three of you approach. There's a very drunk. Well, you're assuming very drunk person passed out on one of the stools on the bar top. As you approach, there is a half orc, not half orc, definitely some orc heritage there. Appear to have kind of large lower canines that are barely just poking up and tucking in their upper lip, and then just the faintest tinge of green to their skin. If you didn't notice the fangs, you would say it was just the lighting, or just the this person might have just been feeling a little under the weather. But a man, what are you having?
Well, I'll take a whiskey if you don't mind, but then I'd have to ask you some questions, actually.
Hey, what kind of questions?
Well, my colleagues over here and I are looking for someone named Floon Blagmar, something like that. You know who I'm talking about?
Maybe. Who's asking? He starts pouring your whiskey.
His friend's looking for him. If you know anything, it would really help us out.
I lean over, I go, I'll pay for her whiskey, and I put a gold on the bar.
He looks over at you, takes it, slides it in. That Floon. I can tell you that he was in here a few nights ago with that Volo character. They were drinking up a storm. Eventually, Volo left. And then Floon was joined by that uppity fella. Never member. They ended up drinking for a little while, played a few rounds of Dragon Ante with Silver Rings over there, then left.
Who was he with?
That never member man. Son of the old Open Lord.
And they're
You
playing
usually
with...
have-
Ciendithus. You're at the bar top too?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. You know, when you hear Open Lord, you know, because it was not that long ago, that Lord Daygalt Neverember was the Open Lord of Waterdeep. He has recently left Waterdeep. The current Open Lord is Lariel Silverhand. You know this as a full-time citizen of Waterdeep.
Mm-hmm.
And that his son Raynar is said to still be living in the city.
So I look at him and I say, "Are you sure that's who he was with?"
I mean, yeah, we don't see nobles in here very often, but that's I'm pretty sure it was.
And it looked like they were all friendly with each other.
Yeah, they knew each other.
I asked the bartender for a drink.
What are you having?
Your best ale.
Grabs a tankard, pulls a tap handle on a keg, just propped up behind the bar.
I pay for it, and then I go and walk over to Silverhand, playing that chess game.
Silverfingers.
Yes.
You see him playing. As you walk over, they are just wrapping up a game. As he slams his hands down on the table in victory. He stands up, turns, and give me a dexterity saving throw, Ciendithus, as he stands up and turns towards you.
Mm-hmm. Oh shit. 7.
7.
Yeah.
You notice him start stumbling over, and as he topples into your torso and spills his tankard of ale, he looks
On
up
me?
at you, on you, and himself. He looks up angrily and says, just clearly offended, starts grumbling very low under breath. He appears to be too drunk to actually form coherent words, but it seems to be lifting his hands up in front of his face in kind of a think of like a pugilist or a boxing type manner, and you can see all of his rings glittering as he sways in front of you. Yes, everyone can see this. It is causing actually a bit of a scene at the moment.
So, well,
He
my
gets it
question,
for you.
my question is, does this guy know about the fighting pits? Would he
don't
recognize
know.
me from the fighting pits?
That's a good question. You don't know. Again, he seems too drunk to really function very well at the moment.
I can see clearly that he's too drunk to even do anything, so I hand him my beer and say, I'm sorry.
Again, he's got his hands kind of up swaying, and he just kind of gives you an odd kind of look, like, why aren't you punching me in the face right now, as he just takes the beer and chugs it, slams it down on the table next to him. That's what I needed, brother, thank you.
You alright, man? Is everything okay?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I just want another Sava, as I always do.
I'll tell you what,
Hey,
you teach me how to play this game, and then I'll buy you another one.
I don't have time or energy to be teaching a little fool like you a complicated game like Sava.
I don't know, it doesn't look that complicated. Oh, I
We
lost
can't hear
Miller.
you.
Really lost you.
Complicated. Sava is a deeply complicated game.
I think I could beat you.
Excuse me, boy?
What do you say we play a game with a little wager? If I beat you, you tell me something I need to know. And if you
Deal.
beat me, I'll pay for your beer for the rest of the night.
Well, I can't pass up a deal like that. Let's go, boy.
Let's go.
At this point, I've kind of gained an interest in watching this. I've stood up and walked over there to kind of observe this going on.
Yeah,
So would I know this
joined
game?
Tennyson and
So
just
you
kind
know
observed.
of this game. Again, it is fairly it's a popular game around Waterdeep. Again, it is a odd chess. Again, a drow invention. Two players play against each other using ebony pieces resembling drow warriors, mages, and priestesses. The goal of the game is to destroy the other player's noble house. It is a game of skill, deception, and insight. A game takes about 30 minutes, and the way we're going to determine the outcome of the game is you and we're going to do a bit of a skill challenge. You and Silverfingers are each going to make an intelligence Saba check. So make a general intelligence check.
So my plan here is to get this guy drunk. So would he roll at disadvantage if I get him drunk?
You don't know. I mean, you could try to get him drunk. Feeding him your beer just now seemed to make him more coherent than he was before.
Oh,
So that's a little confusing, but he's also a dwarf. You also don't know how good he is at Sava, so, if he's proficient in it, your disadvantages might cancel out his advantage. But either way, he is challenging you in this moment. So, again, yes, you did say you were already ordering another beer. So, I will take that into account with the rolls that I am making for him. So, first, we are going to make intelligence Sava checks. So for Ciendithis, that is going to be a basic intelligence check. And you're going to want to write down or note that number. We are then going to roll a charisma deception check. And a wisdom insight check. Your ability to read your opponent and what moves they are going to make. Add up your total. Do you have modifiers for any of those, Shane?
Yeah.
So what's your total?
35.
35?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a bit of a catty back and forth. You're not quite a ringer, but he is drunk. And you do manage to win out in the end. He takes his loss fairly heartily. Again, thanks to your Tennyson's quick thinking, he did manage to grab get him a little tipsy, managed to distract him, and he, all right, boy, what is it you want to know? Silly you didn't ask to make sure I knew what you wanted before you made your bet, so let's see what's going on.
I tell him that the bartender mentioned that he was, that he's here a lot, and I asked him about the man that is missing.
That skinny boy and his papa's friend? Yeah, they were in here a few nights ago.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go over and join their conversation, Billy.
Okay. Do you say anything as you walk up?
I just say, "Hey, Silverfingers, long time no see."
He kind of looks at you. Hey! How are you doing? Yeah. He doesn't
I'm
seem to
fine,
recognize
just-
you.
He does or does not.
Does not seem to recognize you.
That's fine. I'll say, it's okay. I'm just with this guy over here. We just need to ask you some questions.
So what are you asking him, Shane? Or no, you asked him about, so what he tells you, is one, Floon is in here fairly often, cavorting. It's amazing, how much of a ladies' man he is, considering how gaudy of a dresser he is. He tends to wear a giant bas-relief of a unicorn, from a blue beaded necklace around his neck. And just wears very flashy clothing. Again, joined by his pompous friend, whom, based on the information Baracus knows and you got from the bartender, you would say is Raynar Neverember. Both young, dashing men, light hair. He says that they tend to again hang out around town. They did notice that as they were leaving, they were followed out by 5 men, who seemed to get up right after they did and seemed to have been paying a bit of attention to them. And that they recognized those men as frequenters of a warehouse over on Candle Lane. and he tells you to just look for the snake symbol on the door.
Did any of those men have any tattoos that stood out to you?
He doesn't seem to be able to remember whether or not they did or not, or if it's because he's in a drunken stupor, you can't tell.
Hmm.
Go for a ride?
We can hear Elizabeth.
Yeah. That's what you find out.
I
What
go
was
over
the
and
name
tell
of
the
the-
rest of the group.
What was the name of the warehouse?
Doesn't seem to have a name. That's why he describes it as by the symbol on the door. There's no sign or anything.
The Windhound.
So that was the last anyone saw of him?
That's the last. If you guys take time to ask around a bit more, you do get a couple suspicious looks. But it doesn't seem that anybody in here at the moment has any additional information beyond that.
Okay. Well, thanks, Silverfingers.
Is anybody...
Helpful.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Does anybody here happen to be wearing a lot of purple?
Give me a perception check.
12.
No one stands out to you looking for that specifically.
I suggest that we should head toward the warehouse.
I would say that's our only strong lead right now. So
Okay. So that's our plan. Does anybody else want to do anything in this scene before we head back out to the street?
No, not in here right now.
No? Okay.
I pay my bar tab.
Yep. Everybody pay their bar tab. You also pay an additional gold for your bribe.